Hello, everybody. And I'm going to turn the light on behind here because I don't like this lighting very much. Okay, that's a little better. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday night loving kindness class. And my name is Alex. It is wonderful to be here with you this evening, sharing in the Dharma and sharing in some loving kindness. Don't worry, Brian and Linda. Hi. I hope you guys are well. I'm doing all right. Doing pretty good, actually. So, let's see. I apologize for last week. If you were here last week, you saw that we had a technical error. I was right in the middle of my story, and I'm like, crap. And then it was too much of a pain. And then I think I lost that whole thing. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I can do it again if you want. That's okay. I ain't got nothing else going on. Okay. So, hello, Brian and Linda. Hello, Jesse. So you guys, you know this by now. If you are new, if you're not new, if you're new, you don't know this because you're new. But if you're not new, say hello. And I would love to know who you are, where you're from, and do this whether you're new or not new. It's all fine. Hello, Jean. Hello, Tamara. Yes, I'm just going to do this story again. We're just going to do it again. All right. So we're going to have our loving kindness meditation, and we're going to have our story of Jivaka, the Buddha's doctor. I don't know if there's anyone who's going to show up who wasn't here last time, or if not, then you know what? Then you're just going to hear like half the story again. You all right? All right. Okay. Let's see. All right. That's my story. It's my notes because I still use paper. Today I was trying to learn some of the Gen Z lingo. And so I learned, well, not today, but, in the last week or so, I learned sus and cap. So I think it's hilarious. I think they should have their own lingo. Good for them. And I like Gen Z because they were raised by my generation, which is Gen X. So they're doing awesome. All right. All right, guys. It looks like we have a few people here. It doesn't look like there's anybody new, but if you joined just recently and you are new, say hello. In the little chat box there, if you read the chat box, several people have said hello. And if you want to say hello too, I'd love to say hello back. And also, if you're new, we're doing this story again. If you were here last week because we got cut off. Good grief. That's okay. All right. I was kind of waiting for any comments. See if anyone's new. It doesn't look like it. All right. Everybody get into your seated position, nice and comfortable, sustainable, so you're not likely to move around too much. Although, of course, if you have to move around, if you have to move, it's okay. All right. Hello, Lisa. Hello, you just joined us just in time. All right. So again, just allow your eyes to close. Just getting connected with the breath, taking a deep breath all the way in and all the way out. Not forcing it, letting it be quite easy and quite natural at first. And so just for the first couple of minutes, we're just going to get connected to the breath. Developing this nice, easy, gentle attitude of no struggle. Don't want to struggle with our seated position or what's going on in our life right now. You can drop all that and pick it back up later. Just following the breath all the way in, all the way out. Noticing any areas of tension and breathing in and out the energy of the breath into those areas and see if you can get them to soften just a little bit. So just for the next couple of minutes, just rest as gently as you can in the sensations of the breath. And to start, let's do this practice for our benefactor. And just radiating loving kindness for our benefactor or our benefactors. In any way and however you understand that word. Knowing that they just want to be happy and healthy, and you want that for them too. So you radiate this wonderful, loving, and kind intention towards them. And we'll do this for the next few moments. And now shifting our focus from doing this practice for our benefactor to now imagining our benefactor doing this practice for us. And all we have to do is just receive all of their loving kindness. You've already experienced their loving kindness. That's why they're a benefactor. And so you just have to let as much of that into your own heart as you possibly can. Breathing into any areas of discomfort or tension. Any part of your heart that says, no, I can't take this. I can't allow this in. Maybe even gently whispering, yes, you can. It's okay. It's going to be fine. Maybe even putting your hand over your heart while we do this for the next few moments. Now, probably for the most important part of this meditation is now doing this practice for ourselves and either just radiating loving kindness back into your own heart or just imagining your heart getting bigger and warmer. Saying phrases of loving kindness over and over, like, may I be happy, etc. And knowing that if you're able to experience this feeling of loving kindness in your own heart by doing this part of the practice, it's going to be so much easier to have loving kindness for others, because the wonderful feeling of loving kindness you experience in your own heart, you automatically want that for as many people as possible. And so gently, we do this practice for ourselves. And then finally, we've generated so much loving kindness, and now we can expand or explore the limitless quality of the heart by doing this practice for all beings in all directions and just radiating out as far as you can go, knowing that there is no limit to how far you can go. Upwards to the depths, downwards to the skies, or upwards to the skies. And just go out as far as you can, wishing all beings in all directions nothing but this wonderful experience of loving kindness. And just open your eyes when you're ready, making sure that you have, or that you keep that mindfulness of loving kindness about you as you stretch your arms and you stretch your legs. If you have any questions, you know what to do. Just put them in the chat box and ask them. And yeah. And then we'll get started on our story again, which I'm going to change just a little bit or add to. Okay, 30 seconds. Okay. All right. So, any questions, comments? It's okay. We can take a few minutes for this if we need to do that. We still have plenty of time. Okay, well, that's all right. Well, if you think of something in the next 30 seconds, let me know. All right. So what I want to do with this story, and again, I do apologize if you kind of were here last week and we kind of had some technical difficulties. My computer just decided to reboot or just turn off right in the middle of everything. And and so I kind of lost everything, and we were kind of right in the middle of the story, actually right in the best part of the story. Katie, we're going to get to that. I promise you, because I'm going to tell this story again, and I'm going to start from the beginning. It's really fun. It's really interesting what happened, but I want to add a little bit of color to this story and just say that, and this is the story of Jivaka. He was the Buddha's doctor. He was the royal physician. And so this is the story kind of his life and how he became the royal physician and why this story is even here. Why do we even have this story? Well, we have this story, and this story comes from the Vinaya. And the Vinaya, or Vinaya, sometimes you hear it called, is a book, a Buddhist canon. It is for it has all of the rules for the monks and nuns, which is called the Patimokkha, and then it has the stories behind the rules. So all of these rules that the monks and nuns had to follow, they were all situational. They weren't like arbitrary or anything like that. And they were situational. They're situational because something happened and the Buddha had to implement a rule. Most of the time is like somebody was naughty and the Buddha goes, no, you can't do that. So he had to institute a rule. For the first 20 years of the Sangha was small enough where everyone knew what to do. You didn't need any rules and everyone kind of knew what was what. But, as the Sangha grew and grew and grew, they had people who were trying to kind of skirt the rules, and kind of go around the rules because, they didn't want to do certain things or wanted to do certain things that were forbidden that they knew they shouldn't do. There were no rules then. And so he had to institute all these rules. And this is where this story comes from, the role of Jivaka. So Jivaka, at the end of the story, makes a request of the Buddha, which I'm not going to get into right now, but he makes a request of the Buddha, and the Buddha grants his request, and so he made a rule. And this is the story behind that. And the other thing I want to tell you about is I want you to pay very close attention to a couple of elements in this story. I'm not going to tell you what they are until the end. Because many of these stories have some built-in misogyny. They just do. And I want you to pay close attention to, the built-in misogyny of these couple of stories. All right? So pay attention. All right. It doesn't look like we have any other questions. So let's do this, guys. Let's do this. All right. And so again, our story starts in the country or the kingdom of Magadha, and in India of the time. India was about 16 different kingdoms, and they were all fighting and battling with each other, and trying to get more land and all this, all these different types of things. And India wasn't the India that today. India back then was more like kind of Pakistan and a little bit of Pakistan and more like North India. That was India. That was all of India, right? The middle and South India was more, it was still kind of like a Dravidian kind of empire. It was still kind of Bronze Age-ish, and we hadn't really pushed down, or they hadn't really pushed down quite far south at that particular time. Again, this is like, 500 BC. All right. And so in one of the kingdoms, there was a courtesan, and this courtesan found out that she was pregnant. And so she was very distraught, and she didn't know what she was going to do with this child. And so she kind of thought about it after a while, and she goes, I know what I'm going to do. If it's a girl, I'm going to raise her to be a courtesan because I'm a courtesan. And so this is kind of something that I know. I'll just raise her to be a courtesan. It'll be nice and easy. And if it's a boy, I'll just throw him on the trash heap because I have no use for him. And so, a few months later, she has a boy and she throws him on the trash heap. And so this little baby, newborn baby, sitting on the top of the trash heap outside of the palace, and a prince happens to be wandering by about that time, and he hears this crying on top of the trash heap. And so he goes up to investigate, and he finds this baby. And so he takes it and raises the baby as his own. And he named the baby Jivaka, which means rescued alive. And that's what Jivaka means. And so Jivaka actually had a really good childhood growing up in the palace. But as he got older, he really came to understand that, he's not a blood relative. He's adopted. And so he will never figure into any line of succession. And he, when there's all this kind of palace intrigue and infighting, figuring out who's going to succeed the king, he'll most definitely be the odd man out. And he's probably thrown out of the palace. And so he thinks, okay, I need to find a profession. I need to make a living. My time in the palace has been wonderful, but I need to do something with my life. And he was really interested in medicine. And so they sent him to Taxila. And Taxila was the university of the time. It was the most prestigious university. The ruins of this university are still there. And they're in the Punjab region of India, or actually I think it's in Pakistan, I believe. I'm not really sure. I have to think about that. I think it's in Pakistan right now, but the ruins are still there. And it was the most famous university for a really, really, really long time. And so he went to go study medicine there. And he was a really good student. And he spent several years over at Taxila studying Ayurvedic medicine. But after the years went by and he studied what he thought everything that he needed to know to be a doctor, he goes to his guru, his teacher, and he says, I think that I'm ready. When can I graduate? When can I finish this training to be a doctor? And he goes, okay, yeah, you're right. You are pretty much done. And so there's only one final test left. What I want you to do is I want you to go out in the district and survey every single plant in the district. And you need to tell me which plants do not have medicinal value. And he goes, okay, which plants don't have medicinal value? Got it. And so he goes out in the district and he starts surveying plants. And he comes to this one plant and he goes, okay, this plant is for this ailment. Okay, check. And he goes to the next plant. Oh, okay, well, you use this plant for this kind of ailment. And okay, check. And then he goes around and he surveys all of the plants in the kingdom. And he gets a little worried because he can't find a plant that doesn't have medicinal value. And so he's wandering about for a while and he finally makes his way back to his guru, his teacher, and he says, I haven't been able to find a plant that doesn't have medicinal value. And his guru says, congratulations, you passed. And he became a doctor right then, an Ayurvedic doctor. And his teacher gave him some money to get back home, and he thought all was well. And all was not well, because he ran out of money. And he wasn't even halfway there yet. And so he was in this town, in this little small kingdom, and he decided to advertise his talents. Wanted to know if anyone had need of an Ayurvedic doctor. And he came across this woman who had this issue that hadn't been able to be cured for like 7 years. She went to doctor after doctor after doctor, and whatever they prescribed, it didn't work. Right. And so she was in a lot of agony and a lot of pain. And so she went to him because, no one else did anything. And she goes, look, I'm not paying you unless what you do works. He goes, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. And so he gave her an examination, and because he knew that he was treating her for these severe headaches. And so he gave her an examination, and then after the examination, he figures out exactly what the course of treatment is, and he concocts this potion, and he gives her the potion, and she was cured. She was cured after a time, wasn't right away, but after a time, she was cured of these headaches, these horrible headaches. And she was ecstatic. She was like overjoyed with the fact that after 7 years, this chronic kind of illness has subsided and she could have some peace. And so she gave our new doctor, Jivaka, 4,000 gold coins. And her husband actually was even more overjoyed and gave him 16,000 gold coins, a male servant, a female servant, a palanquin. Now, a palanquin is just like a little thing that you put it on your shoulder and you carry somebody. It has these 4 little rods and the person's in the middle, right? That's a palanquin. And so he finally made his way home with all these gold coins, and he went to the prince who raised him, who found him on the trash heap and who raised him. And he says, "Here, everything is yours. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for me, for raising me, for giving me a home, for sending me to school so that I can become a doctor and make my own living. Please take everything." And the prince says, "No. Thank you very much, but no, this is all yours. You deserve this. And so you keep everything, and I want you to build a home near the palace. That's what I want you to do. So build a home near the palace. Stay close." And a little while later, the king, King Bimbisara, King Bimbisara was sick, and he had these bleeding hemorrhoids. And, he's had this for a long time. He was in, agony and a lot of pain. His wife was making fun of him because he had these, this severe just kind of issue going on. And the prince suggested that Jivaka tend to him and give him an examination and perhaps, cure him, And so Jivaka comes, he does an examination, and he puts this medication underneath his nails, underneath his fingernails. And he administered ointments to him. And after a time, the king got well. And so this was a really big deal for the king. And so the king gave him a mango grove, 10,000 gold coins, a small village in the district. And he also offered his services to the Buddha. And that's how actually he became the Buddha's doctor. Because the king Bimbisara was a big time follower of the Buddha. And so he goes, "Here, you're now the Buddha's doctor." And, because the Buddha was a human being, people need doctors. And so that's how he became the Buddha's doctor. And so, and then everything was going well. And then there was a wealthy merchant. This is another part of the story. Another wealthy merchant hadn't been well in like 8 years. And then, Jivaka, he goes to Jivaka, and Jivaka goes, "Well, what will you offer me?" And he goes, "Anything." He said, "Anything." He goes, "Okay, that means you have to do everything that I say, everything." And so he examined this wealthy merchant, and he removed 2 worms from his brain. And he said that he had to sleep 7 months on his back, 7 months on his right side, and then 7 months on his left side. And said if he doesn't do this, your disease is incurable and you just might die in a few days. So, he goes, okay, so he's spending these nights on his back. And like after 7 days, he goes, I can't do this anymore. I can't spend any more time on my back. He goes, okay, so then lay on your right side for 7 months. Sorry. Start 7 months on your right side now. And then 7 days goes by and he goes, look, I can't do it anymore. I cannot do it anymore. It's just too much. He goes, okay, fine. So now lay on your left side for 7 months. And after 7 days, he goes, I cannot do this anymore. This is all I can do. And so please, this has to be it. He goes, okay, that's fine. And so, see, the merchant was cured because he really only needed to sleep 7 days on each side. But if he knew that if he said 7 days, he wouldn't even do 7 days. So he had to go like way out there and say 7 months so that he can get 7 days out of the wealthy merchant. Right. And so he was cured, and he asked for 100,000 gold coins for him and 100,000 gold coins for the king. And he gave it to him. And now his reputation spread far and wide, right? Far and wide. And now we're getting to the part of the story that we kind of left off last week, right? And then there's like King Eugenie, sorry. And, King Eugenie had another ailment that had been unable to be cured by the doctors in his kingdom. And so they called on Jivaka. And the first thing he tells Jivaka is, look, pal, no ghee, because all of his concoctions, all of his potions had ghee in them, this clarified butter that they use a lot in Ayurvedic medicine. And Jivaka goes, well, okay, And so he gives the king this examination and figures out what's wrong with him. And he knows that he has to give the king ghee. It has to be part of this potion that he gives him. And so he's kind of trying to make up this plan about what he's going to do with this, because he knows he's going to have to piss off the king. So he does this. He goes to the city gate and tells the guard to get his fastest elephant and bring it to the gate right now, because he is tending to the king, and he might need to go and get supplies for the king, and he needs to get his fastest elephant here now so he can use the elephant to, go and get what he needs. Let's do it now. The guard says, no problem. And so Jivaka goes back and mixes this potion for the king. He puts ghee in it. He has to. It's part of the recipe. He's not going to get well without it. Right. But he just mixes it with this kind of astringent to kind of mask the flavor of the ghee. Right. And at least for a while. And so he gives the ghee, he gives the potion that has the ghee in it to the king. The king takes it, ingests it, and then Jivaka goes, hightails it out of there. Good. Thank you very much. This is it. You're going to be fine. And he just leaves. And so he leaves to the gate, gets on the elephant, and just books it. And after a while, the king is like rubbing his stomach, going, "Oh, what? He put ghee in this. He put ghee in this." And the king is angry. And so he gets his guard to go run after Jivaka, and he gets his fastest guard. He's incredibly fast. And so he's running after Jivaka, and he eventually catches up to him. Jivaka had dismounted the elephant and was just kind of sitting there waiting for him with some water and some fruit. And the guard comes and tells him, you have to go back to the king right now. He goes, okay, fine. But here, at least sit down for a minute and have some fruit, have some water. And the guard sits down. He is tired. So he has some fruit. He has some water. A little bit of time goes by, and the guard starts to get really, really sleepy. Really sleepy. And his eyes get really, really big. He's like, oh no. And he goes and looks at Jivaka and he goes, am I going to live? And Jivaka goes, oh yeah, you'll live. You'll just be out for a little bit. But I'm not going back there. The king is going to be fine, but I'm not going back there. And so the guard passes out. He gets back on the elephant and he just takes off. Right. And so the king did get better. So he wasn't killed. Right. Which is good, because that would be a terrible end to the story. Then here comes the Buddha. And the Buddha, like I said, the Buddha was a human being, and human beings get sick. And the Buddha had been sick enough times. I don't know how old he was at this point, but the Buddha was sick. really, really sick. And so Jivaka came and he examined the Buddha, and he knew that he needed to give the Buddha what they call 9 rounds of purgation, which he needed to make the Buddha throw up 9 times, right? And so give him a potion to make the Buddha throw up 9 times to get him well. But then as he was doing this, he remembered a prophecy that he would need to give him one more, a 10th one. So he gave him one more than the normal 9, and then the Buddha got better. And then the Buddha asked what you want. And, Jivaka noticed that the Buddha's monks, their robes were torn and tattered and frankly, just really, really damn ugly. So he said, I would like you to have it be okay for the lay people to give new robes to the monks, because they were very kind of worn out. And so the Buddha agreed. He consented, and so that's a rule now. That's in the Vinaya that says once a year, lay people are allowed to give new robes to the monks, and that's the story of why that's the case. It's the story of Jivaka, the Buddha's doctor. See, that didn't take too long, did it? All right, so that is our story. And so what I'm going to ask is, 1, if you have any questions, and 2, did you notice there were 2 very specific instances of misogyny in this story? And what were they? What were they? What are those 2 points? Because it's really interesting. And while you're thinking of that and you're typing that into the chat box, it's really interesting. If you take a look at a lot of these stories, they're all written by men, and they're all written by men after the Buddha died. The Buddha was very, pro-woman, very pro-woman. But the men who wrote these stories often injected these points of misogyny into the stories. Anybody? Can't escape the politics of the times. Oh, yeah, absolutely, Lillian. Absolutely. It's amazing how people don't change after 2,500 years. So the king's wife laughing. Yeah, laughing at King Bimbisara. 1, a queen would never do that. But they wrote it in. So the first one is, that's all right. The king's wife, King Bimbisara's wife, laughing at him. So the other point, I'll just tell you, the other point of misogyny was at the very beginning of the story, where Jivaka's mother threw him on the trash heap. They needed like antagonist for the beginning of the story, so he had something to overcome, and so he just chose his mother. Oh, so if he has a girl, then she'll raise her as a courtesan like her, but if it's a boy, he's completely useless, and so he's going to throw him on the trash heap. Oh my God, what a horrible thing to say, because that wouldn't, that's somebody actually wrote that in there, I would imagine. So those are the 2 basic points of misogyny, and I love telling these stories, and And the more that I tell them, the more that I look at them and go with a little bit more of a critical eye and see that, oh my God, why would you write that in that way? There's a lot of that here. And the story of the Buddha's stepmother, who was the very first Buddhist nun, I know about Pema Chodron, but are there other female monks today or Buddhist nuns? Absolutely. There's tons of them. Tons of them, lots of them. And so one who's right here in San Diego is Karma Lekshe Tasomo, and she is a professor of religious studies and something else at the University of San Diego. And she is a Tibetan Buddhist nun and, fully ordained. And she is wonderfully wise. Wonderfully wise. Again, she's a professor over at USD. And so she, obviously has her PhD. She's very smart. And she was a surfer in like Santa Barbara or somewhere in California. I can't remember where exactly, maybe Malibu actually. And she was a surfer and her last name was Zen, Zenn. And she goes, oh, I guess I should be a Buddhist nun. And so she became a nun, and she's actually taught at the temple several times. There are like plenty of nuns in Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition. They're wonderfully wise women. In the Tibetan tradition. The Tibetan tradition is incredibly patriarchal. And so recently, or not recently, but men have always been able to get this kind of Buddhist doctoral degree, the monks, and it's called a geshe, Geshe, a geshe. And a geshe degree means it's essentially like a doctorate in Buddhist philosophy, Tibetan Buddhist philosophy. And until recently, it was only offered to the men. And it takes like 17 years of study to get it. And recently they offered it to women. And the final exam is 4 years. It is a 4-year final exam. And and Rabina Curtin, of course, I can't believe I forgot about her. She's wonderful as well, and is also taught at the temple. But they had the final year of tests, which was like 2 years ago, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. And like all like 30 something women who took the final exam, the final test of the final exam in the final year, they all passed. So they're all geshes now. And so they can teach. And so that was a really big deal, even though Tibetan Buddhist nuns aren't technically fully ordained. And that's just a longer process because you have to change Tibetan culture. And Tibetan culture is still very patriarchal. And it's just the way that it is. And the Dalai Lama knows it. And the Dalai Lama knows it needs to be changed. And there's a lot of, politics involved and so he has to go really slowly and really carefully because a lot of people are against it. They're really against it, So even in that, this wonderful tradition and that the Dalai Lama has to deal with, there's a lot of patriarchy and a lot of misogyny. So yes, Rabina Curtin, she is, I think, Australian, or English, can't remember. And so yeah, she is a nun, and I think she even has her own YouTube channel. So there's those two, like you said, Pema Chodron, Pema Tupten. She runs a center up in like Spokane, Washington, I think so. So yes, we just talked about Karma Lekshe Tasomo. Yeah, We just talked about her just a few minutes ago. And I can't remember what her name is. Tupten. Oh my God, I feel really bad. But she is an American Buddhist nun. Tough cookie. Yeah, absolutely. And yep, absolutely. And so there's so many others. I mean, in the Theravada tradition, they're finally allowing women to fully ordain. And that was a big deal. Oh my God. And a monk, I got even kicked out of the Thai forest tradition because they didn't like what he was doing. And he goes, tough, tough. I'm doing it anyway. And so he's doing it. And so these nuns from everywhere in the Theravada tradition are becoming fully ordained. And so in a lot of these Buddhist countries, it's really, really hard for them. In Thailand, which is a hugely Buddhist country, they don't let women be fully ordained. They're trying. They're trying really, really hard. And they have this one really, really outstanding nun. And for the life of me, I can't remember her name. But she's just one outstanding nun. And in Thailand, they call them Mai Chis. And they all dress in white. And they live the life of a nun without technically being fully ordained. And so they build their own Buddhist centers, and they do their own practice, and so they're doing their own thing. And they're in some of these countries where Buddhism has been entrenched for, and patriarchy and misogyny has been entrenched for 2,000 years, it is really, really, really slow going to get equality for a lot of these women. So I don't know if Joko Beck was an actual nun or not. I'm literally saying I don't know, but she was a Zen practitioner for many, many years over at Zen Center San Diego. I think she retired in the 90s. I think. I don't know. Can't quite remember. But there are plenty of wonderful women. Yeah, they kicked her out. And the people who kicked her out had well, she eventually passed away in Arizona. Yeah. She rejected being a nun. Okay, got it. But they did kick her out of Zen Center San Diego. Lots of drama. And the people who did it actually got kicked out recently, like a couple of years ago. This husband and wife, one for engaging in unwanted things of a sexual nature, and his wife for covering it up. People. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that story. So this will be live. If you missed part of the story, this will be on YouTube here in a little bit. I'm glad you enjoyed the story, Brian and Linda, and everyone else. I hope you enjoyed the story as well. And again, if you want to watch the story again, you can certainly do that. And the quiz afterwards, yes. All right, guys. Let's join our palms together at our hearts, please. May the benefits of this meditation, this story, this discussion be received by all beings in all directions. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be joyful and at ease. May all beings be happy. May all beings be loved and seen for the beautiful, radiant beings that they are. Thank you for coming. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Bye now.